Welcome to Africa Speaks of Today, and I do hope that you all always have a wonderful time wherever you are in any part of the world. Once again, welcome to Africa Speaks of Today, and as I say, I always think everybody has a wonderful time because you never know when the big man upstairs may want to take you. Now, what have I got in today's program? And I have to let you know that the gentleman I have in the studio today, he is a walking encyclopedia as far as knowledge is concerned, especially knowledge about the African continent and about us, the Africans. So if there is anybody there who doesn't really know properly what it means to be an Africa in a spiritual way and in other ways, then this is the guy you really need to, this is the gentleman you really need to get to know. Now, is Africa doing enough to revive its spiritual past? How can our past coexist with our present? That's one of the key questions we're going to answer in today's program. Africa is referred to by many as the most spiritual continent in the world. So many of our ancestors worshipped those who were there before them. The coming in of Western civilization did not only change our way of life, but our beliefs as well. There's something to note there. Our cultures and our languages are slowly being eroded as we embrace Western civilization on the African continent. The question is, can our past help shape our future? Can our spiritual past coexist with the present? Because religion has come in, we are told everything about us is not what it's meant to be, but the Western one is the best, as we'll hear. These and many other questions will be answered in today's program with the gentleman I have here. Brother Leader Mbandaka, the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalistic movement, a national Pan-African liberation movement, founded on authentic African spiritual, culture, and philosophic and faith. Those are the key elements of Alkebu-Lan Revisited, as Brother Mbandaka will explain in details what probably I've left behind. Welcome to the program once again, because you've been here before.
Tenda mwari.
Yeah, tenda mwari.
Rumbidzo kuna mwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Kudzai mudzimu mukuru, give praises unto our great ancestors, because without our ancestors we would not be here today.
Of course.
And may I just say, it's a joy and a blessing to be sitting with you, Brother.
Once again,
within the walls of Omega TV, UK and Tatenda. Thank you very much for the warm reception and hospitality that we have received from your good self and your staff
on the
here.
Station.
Wonderful.
The question is, we always revisit. We've been here before. By the way, he's been here before, and we've discussed this many times. This is nearly almost 5 years ago, and we've visited. We've gone through most of that. Now, the question at the moment is simply a question of seeing how far have we gone now in the struggle that we have, and also revisiting some of the important points that we discussed. But I would like to start with the introduction of Alkebu-Lan. The word Alkebu-Lan as an organization, its importance to the African community here in the United Kingdom and on the African continent, and the kind of roles that you play and what you try to do. I mean, there are so many roles here, I know. But somebody out there who is watching us for the first time, may not know what Alkebu-Lan is. But I know.
Okay. Well, the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist movement is a liberation movement that is based upon an African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy, an authentic African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy called Alkebu-Lan Livity.
Okay.
Now, Alkebu-Lan Livity means living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture. Our aim, our purpose, is expressed in the name of the movement itself, Alkebu-Lan, one of the oldest names on historical record for the African continent, representing our land and our people before we were invaded, before we were conquered, before we were enslaved, and therefore representing our authentic culture as a people, our authentic identity as a people. Revivalist means that we aim to revive, to rescue, to reconstruct our authentic traditional way of life, projecting that into the present time, whilst remaining loyal to its true essence, which is our essence of being. And then movement means that we aim to grow into a mass global movement. Pan-African movement. And I should emphasize that we also adhere to the nationalist Pan-Africanist philosophy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and his spirit and mission child, the eminent prophet and king, Papa Omowale Malcolm X. So we are unapologetically a nationalist, unapologetically a nationalist Pan-Africanist movement.
Yeah. Okay, now there are so many things. I was going through some of them and I was thinking, wow, this thing covers quite a lot and it's quite big, and these people must be grown to make it massively big if it is to embrace the entire continent.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're looking at life, religion, spirituality, education, culture, Africa, family dynamics, rituals of passing, and so on. The structure evolves quite a lot, and it's much bigger than a couple of individuals. If it's to cover the entire African continent and the tribals and the countries and so on, how far have you gone so far in making sure that the message goes across as far as these issues are concerned? Because there are quite a lot. Education alone, my goodness. Family dynamics goes to the kings and queens and all those, and then of course education and culture itself. Each one of these areas is massively big. How are you guys covering all these?
When we talk about liberation as a people, we're talking about freeing the entire African continent, indeed the entire African world. And we're talking about at least 2.5 billion people around the world who are faced with historical oppression, exploitation, and degradation by the forces of global white supremacy, Euro-American imperialism. That is the oppressive force that sits on the backs of Africa and African people globally and continentally. So there you can see that this is a magnanimous vision, global vision. As a movement, we have to go by the guidance of our ancestors, that to count sand, you start from where you stand. So that although we are faced with this huge mountain of billions of grains of sand, we understand that we have to start the counting at our feet. So as a movement, that is what we've done, and with the resources that we have used every opportunity and every medium that has availed itself to us to bring this message of liberation to our people, getting our people to understand that for us as African people, freedom begins with the freeing of the African mind and the freeing of the African soul. And therefore, to free the African mind and free the African soul, the African mind and African soul has to be grounded in authentic African traditions, the authentic teachings and cultural liberty of our ancestors is what we have to be grounded in, is what we have to be governed by, is what we have to be sensitized to as a people and as a movement. That is what we've tried to project ever since we've come into existence.
The biggest, the way the structure is and how big it is the big question mark always going to be, how is it managed? I mean, it's easier to talk about it now and say this is the aims and objectives, but the structure of it, obviously means funds coming in to help in most of these areas. And that is one of the areas which we in the media always say, okay, it's easier to set up something, but the managing and running of it and making sure it stays is where all of us usually fail. But this is what I put my hands up and praise you for that, because it has managed to be, it's coming to how long now? Almost 20 years it's been standing.
Well, the movement has been going since 1987.
Yeah.
We came into existence 1987, which is 38 years ago.
Okay, you see that?
So we've been going.
So the fact that it is still standing over the period of time and all that is that is where we always say, hang on, how can it be helped now? How can it be helped to raise even bigger than that? Do we need African presidents? Do we need African chiefs? What do we need to make it much more bigger?
We need African, any movement, any move, for any movement to be successful, to be viable, you need first and foremost the people.
Yeah, that's very important.
You need the people.
Yeah.
And then you need a clear philosophy, a philosophy that has within it the right teachings, the right ideology to inspire and to guide the thinking and the actions of the people. Has to be a clear philosophy. And then what you need is a program.
A program.
The program. This is where we talk about structure, where we talk about putting systems and structures and processes in place that will transform the consciousness of our people, that will galvanize and mobilize our people, but also that will organize our people. And when we talk about organizing our people, we have to be about building institutions.
That's exactly what I would say.
It has to be about building institutions. And we have the best example that we have in our history, our liberation history, is what we call the black print. You know, in society, in sociology, they talk about, and in psychology, they talk about blueprint.
Yeah, the blueprint,
Well, we talk about black print to give it an African centered perspective. So we talk about black print. So we need the black print or the template of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and his movement of the 19-teens and 1920s coming on into the 1930s, where they form a international government of the African people of the world.
Okay.
They set up a government, a world government for African people, and where they had institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, spiritual cultural institutions. They had leisure institutions, healthcare institutions. We have to think in terms of nation building, and a nation is a people organized as a sovereign entity drawing on their own agency in order to promote, protect, and preserve their own interests. So we have to be about, as a people, engaging in those principles and practices of nation building, organizing, as Papa Garvey demonstrated, not only taught us, but demonstrated to us, that we must organize ourselves wherever we are as a nation of people. Again, as I say, a nation is a people organized as a sovereign entity. And that word sovereign is supreme. It is crucial.
It is,
Because sovereign means you have supreme authority over your own affairs. You have supreme authority over your own destiny.
Exactly,
You are the masters of your own destiny.
Destination,
Absolutely. And so as a movement, we understand that the central cog to this vision of nation building, this vision of becoming a sovereign people again, having supreme authority, being the masters of our own destiny again, the vital prerequisite of that is that our thinking, our consciousness, our subconscious thinking as a people has to be grounded in an African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. the African Parliament, of which you were chairman, is it still standing? Because I remember when it started at Voice of Africa Radio, and then we tried our level best to go here, and of course there were no funds, there was no nothing. People were willingly doing this. Is it still standing?
Tendai Mwari, unfortunately, in name and in its original configuration of 2011 when it started, that configuration under the name National African People's Parliament or Interim National African People's Parliament, projecting towards dropping the interim and manifesting as a fully constituted parliament, does not exist in that form. But I'm happy to say that there has been a regeneration of that vision under the auspices of the Pan-African People's Parliament.
Oh, Pan-African People's Parliament.
Pan-African People's Parliament.
Is it being supported now? Because at the time when we were trying to have a look at it and to see how we can move it forward, so many diplomats here in the UK, because personally I did send out a number of mails to the African diplomats here in the UK, and I was introducing it when it started, and I was explaining its main purpose for us in the diaspora to have a look and see where we can help Africa, which areas we could go in as Africans living in the diaspora. But they didn't really look interested. They were not in fact, I think I got a return from Kenya, and I think there was another call from Tanzania. They were about, and even I think Kagame, secretary, somebody from Kagame's office in one of them was keen on getting, simply said, send us, just send us the information, send us what we are always interested in knowing, what Africans are doing abroad, and we might be of help at some point, and Rwanda will look forward to, it gave some kind of interest, but that was all. There wasn't anything. No South Africa, nobody else was interested in it. And I don't know whether now, with the Pan-African movements in Ethiopia, with the African Union, there could be something to gear it up. Is that part of the... Is it happening?
Well, let's be clear, my brother. Let's be clear. If we are really serious about our liberation, we must understand that the real force, the real power, the real energy has to come from the grassroots. It has to come from the people. And the people...
But the top has got to be a contributor, a big contributor, because the biggest voice is at the top, with the heads of state, with the chiefs, with those are people who are in a different world altogether. The bottom can shout as much as they want, but the top, if the top suddenly is just watching the situation, they won't do anything about it.
Tendai Mwari, remember, I use the term real. The real power is in the hands of the people.
I know.
The real power is in the spirit of the people. If the people are united and the people are organized, then the government of the people has to serve
the people.
The people has to serve the natural and informed will of the people. Otherwise, the people will exercise the power to remove that government and to put into place a government that is answerable to the people. It's the people that is sovereign. It is the will of the people that is sovereign.
The key word is the will.
The will of the people. And I add the natural and informed will, because the people can be confused by the circumstances of history. People can be conditioned. People can be brainwashed. So we talk about the natural and informed will of the people. Every people has a natural disposition to be free. That's natural.
You're born with it.
We are born with that will, that desire to be free, to be a free and self-determining people. We are predisposed by nature.
Of course,
to be free and self-determining. That is why when people are oppressed, they resist oppression because it's unnatural.
Yeah.
So we speak of the natural will, but we also speak of the informed will of the people. If a people are misinformed, a people can respond to or endorse ideas that are against their interests.
Yeah.
Simply because they're misinformed, they're miseducated through the systems of so-called education or the system of religion.
Yeah.
A people can become confused about who they are and what's in their best interest.
Yeah.
So we speak of the natural and informed will of the people. And if the people are in connection with their nature of being, and if the people are properly informed about who they are and the circumstances of their history and who their enemies are, who their oppressors are, then the people will know how to organize themselves, to rid themselves of their oppression. And the people will know how to organize proactively to put in place governance systems that serve their interests. And those governance systems have to be adherent to our traditional knowledge system as a people. And I'll keep coming back to that. We have to be immersed in the traditions of our ancestors, the philosophy, the value systems of our ancestors, the spiritual systems of our ancestors, and we have to rid ourselves of these oppressive, alien, religious ideologies of the historical oppressors of our people. We have to rid ourselves of these so-called educational systems and schools that are grounded or submerged in the alien ideas and ideals, oppressive ideas and ideals, white supremacist, Eurocentric ideas and ideals that governs the institutions of Africa today.
That comes back to when you mention education. Education is the key. But then again, you have to look at it from an angle of whereby the institutions that are educating Africans are educating them on the level of say, for example, you're educated here in the UK. What they're teaching you here in the UK, part of the philosophy is how to survive while you're here. And wherever you go, whether Uganda or not, the issues that are to do with the proper education that will involve our children, and I believe this is one of the things that you're trying to do, is that, okay, you have a teacher who's been educated in teaching the mathematics, English, or any of these other subjects, but the area you're going in is a unique one. How do you train young men to be Africans? How do you train young women to be Africans? But you can train them to be individuals. That's it. Be individuals, go out, work, play football, boxing, whatever, and become somebody. We don't have a structure here which says that man is an Ethiopian. Can we put Ethiopia in him? That man is a Nigerian. Can we put Nigerian in him? Can we put Ghana in him? Because the structures here are meant for everybody who is living here. You know, that's why you're told to learn to speak English. You're Indian, they said, well, if you want to get a passport, then you need to learn to speak English.
Can I suggest?
The structure is meant that. Unless we do something which is different for our children in a different way, for them to raise. That's why some people take them back to Africa, get the values there, and then come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
2 points I'd like to make to build on your last remarks. First and foremost, if we're going to Africanize or re-Africanize Africans, we're not going to Ethiopianize them. We're not going to Nigerianize them or Ghananize them.
Okay.
We might Oromonize them. We might Tigraynize them. We might Yorubanize them. We might Akanize them. Follow me?
Yeah.
Because these are authentic traditions of Africa and its people. We have the Ewe, we have the Ga, we have the Zulu, we have the Shona, the Xhosa, the Ndebele, we have the Lingala, the Bakongo, we have the Lua, there's
so many
across the Africa, and it's all beautiful, it's all authentic.
Yeah.
And then what we need, we have a great African paleontologist, anthropologist, scientist, you name it, a multi-genius, the late Sheikh Anta Diop, who wrote the book Cultural Unity of Black Africa. Cultural Unity of Black Africa.
Okay.
Where he demonstrates a cultural thread that runs through the macro culture, or runs through Africa as a macro cultural entity.
Okay.
So these Yoruba, Ndebele, Ga, Ewe, Akan, these are subcultures of a macro culture.
All right.
They draw from and feed into a macro culture. Too often we talk about the division and the differences and different languages. The great linguist, his name slips me at the moment, but studying African language systems, I found that there are only 8. Around about 8 language systems. Everything else are dialects of one or other of those 8 language systems. Many of those dialects, or those 8 language systems, have degrees of mutual intelligibility, meaning they have common syntax and vocabulary and structure that makes it workable, that the language, you can communicate across these languages.
Yeah.
And another linguist, Professor Kwesi Pra.
I've heard of him.
Yes.
Several times, yeah.
From Congo, Brazzaville.
Yeah.
Has been working on...
I thought he was Ghanaian. No, he wasn't.
No, Kwesi Pra is Ghanaian, yes,
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of... I don't know why his name is Obenga. Theophile Obenga.
Yeah.
He's from the first linguist I was referring to, whose name I could not remember, is Theophile Obenga.
Okay.
And he's from Congo Brazzaville. He is the one that came to the conclusion that, the language systems across the African continent, there are 8 language systems at most. Yeah. And so Professor Kwesi Pra, building on that knowledge, has been trying to, he and others, I think he works with Theophile Obenga and others,
I've been trying to get them out to here.
Yeah.
With the LC, London School of SWASA, London School of Economics.
SOAS?
SOAS,
yeah.
SOAS, yeah. I've been trying to see if I could get them to come here and then do a debate on that, on these subjects, which they have written books about. And, but their timing they're so extremely busy. It's very difficult. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm saying that to say that that there are real possibilities that we could evolve a continental language for Africa and African people, that we could evolve a continental expression of African culture that knits together all of the different traditions of Africa. Yeah? That we can cultivate an African spiritual, cultural expression of the entire African continent or the entire African world.
Well, suggestions were already made.
That is a possibility.
Suggestions already been made at the African Union that if language is to be taken into consideration, which is to cover the entire African continent, Swahili, which is spoken in more than 15 African countries, especially in the southern region and the central region and the other central region and the other northern part of the Africa, would be taken into consideration as the main African language,
Well, so Kiswahili has long since been embraced within the Pan-African world community as a Pan-African language, a language for the African continent, or a Pan-African language for the African world community. And that's something that many of us do embrace. But I think the vision that Professor Kwesi Pra and others have been working on is to take that to another level.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
And I think it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. They have got very good intentions.
But let me say something in relation to the AU, the African Union. I think we have to be constructively critical about how much of a revolutionary force, or potential revolutionary force, the African Union really represents in its present configuration for us as African people. If you take, for instance, presently, its present constitution that allows non-African entities to have observer status, observer membership, and these non-African entities are essentially the historical oppressors of our people.
Yeah.
Over, as far as I understand it, at least 2/3 of its funding is coming from the EU.
The EU and the United States,
He who pays the fiddler calls the tune. Have we not heard that?
Yeah, but I have to say something here, which is something that I've heard over a period of time. I tried to say so even at the very beginning here, the very beginning when we were holding a discussion before the show started, that if you're going to be if you've got to be close to your enemy, you understand the enemy much more. Because I remember...
the ancestors say, there's an ancestor saying, sorry to interrupt you. Sometimes you have to dine with the devil with a long spoon. Our ancestors, our ancestors are very wise people.
So that you're dining, but the spoon is miles away.
That's right.
It gets the food, but it doesn't really. You don't touch him.
That's right. The problem we have today is we forgot the long spoon bit. So we just dine with the devil.
No, but the thing is,
you get me, my brother?
I get your point. I get your point. The fact that has come up and keeps coming up every now and then is that the world has become a global village. With the AI, with this and that, the educational structure.
I remember you saying that when we met last time.
I know.
And you remember my response?
Yeah, of course I know.
You remember my response, my brother?
It's going to be the same thing, but it's going to be the same response.
By whose definition are we becoming a global village? Who is constructing this global village? Who defines this global village? And how are we as African people being defined in this global village? If we can't say as Africans that this is a global village that we visioned, that we constructed, that we control, that we command, and this is how we define ourselves within the construct of this global village, then we should not be championing this global village. We should not be celebrating. We should be weary of this global village. We should interrogate the concept of this global village.
Okay. It's a massive way of approaching things. And I look at it from an angle of, maybe give an example of Mao Zedong in China, whereby he coached Chinese to face the world in a certain way. Say, look, whatever ideas they have right now, Mao Zedong had written about it years and years ago. Because at the time of communism, there was a lot of going on between him and the West. And it was like a war going on. There was a Cold War, of course, between Russia and America. But then at the same time, the communism was also being challenged and being fought for. But he realized the vision later on. And he says, look, if we don't open up, we're over 1.2 billion people. We feed ourselves, we do this, but then at the end of the day, the world still needs us. We need to have industries, we need to have this, we need to have this. So the leaders who have come in afterwards have looked at what he had visualized nearly 40, 50 years ago. He was already ahead of his time. I was reading a bit about him. That's why this whole thing comes up. If you look at China now, practically integrated. They're in Africa now. They're everywhere. Africa could take that as partly as an example, and they say, hang on a minute, we can't simply be in Africa and surround ourselves with Africa and forget to look at the rest of the world. There's something we can get from there. Let's look at our people who are there in America. Let's look at the people who are in Europe, who are participating in all. This is what they're everywhere. They're everywhere. But the structure is such that Israel is still very strong. Why? Because of the entities everywhere where they are.
But what was Mao Zedong's starting point?
The starting point was self-independence, for example.
Absolutely.
Is one of those. Self-independence.
China had closed its doors, its boundaries. First of all, China expelled the aliens from its shores.
Okay.
China closed its boundaries and waged a cultural revolution that had at its core, people talk about communism. What was at the core of the Chinese cultural revolution is a xenophile regeneration, a regeneration of Chinese cultural consciousness.
It was already going on in China anyway. It was already there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was taken to another level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At one point, even its whole educational system was shut down because there were too many Chinese teachers and lecturers with an alien mindset. And they closed down their educational institutions for nearly 2 years, if I remember correctly, or probably even more than 2 years, and sent teachers, lecturers, professors to the fields. But it wasn't just sending them to the fields. It was also revolutionizing their mindset.
Yeah.
And those who were beyond being revolutionized were given an exit to this dispensation of earthly existence, so to speak. Yeah? It was when China was culturally grounded enough under the auspices of the Han Empire, Han culture, Han civilization. Over 90% of Chinese identify with the Han civilization. So it was a pan-Chinese revolution, so to speak.
Okay.
If Africa was to do the same thing, think about it. If Africa was to do the same thing, Africa would close its boundaries. Africa would expel its aliens who have historically imposed themselves as exploiters, oppressors of our people. Then Africa would transform its institutions into institutions that's grounded in our African culture, our African tradition, so Africans think like Africans. Africans are inspired by the ancient cultures and traditions of our ancestors. It's baked into our educational system, it's baked into our spiritual systems, it's baked into and permeates every single aspect of African life. All our institutions are grounded in our traditions. Then that would be to emulate the Chinese model, but in the sense of an African-centered model. And then, when you're strong enough, when you're grounded enough and you're strong enough,
you open up.
You open up. That was when America and the United Nations, which had shut out mainland China, and embraced Taiwan as China. When the transformation in China and China became a colossus that could threaten the world order that the Europeans were in the process of creating. What did they do? They knocked on China's door.
And of course, every industry is over there.
What's his name?
Yeah.
What's the president?
The president
1969.
of China?
No. American president 1960. Watergate.
Yeah, Nixon. Richard Nixon. Yeah.
Yeah. Had to go to China.
Yeah.
To meet with Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
And invite them to join the United Nations. And China was able to join the United Nations as a member of the permanent Security Council.
Yeah.
Africa does not have a permanent seat
Yeah.
in the Security Council.
It's not united.
That's the point I'm making.
It's not united.
That is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
China is united.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we have to do what the Chinese did, which is what the Osagifo Kwame Nkrumah, inspired by the vision and the philosophy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. That is what the Osagifo Kwame Nkrumah was trying to do with the African continent. And that is what we have to revive. That vision has to be revived today if we're serious about our liberation.
I agree. I agree with you. But the biggest problem that I see here, and it's something which I've really discussed on a number of occasions with Pan-Africanists, the issue of fact that education is the key. Who are we educating? How are we broadening their minds to have that mindset of Africa? Because at the moment, the mindset is not there. Now, you have to train the mindset. Maybe it's the next generation of Africans who are coming and not our generation. We can talk about it, but there are issues that we are looking at. But the failure of uniting is due to the leaders themselves. And to me, I've always expressed that. You want unity, it has to start from the top. It can't start from the bottom. And sometimes it can, through the clans, through the tribes, but the old African system, which was obviously the leaders are not interested in, said that there's a Zulu king here, there's a song. These are people who used to unite our people. But you find that small kingdoms and small chiefs, the politicians at the top are not listening to them. Yeah, although they know what we want everything for. We want health, we want education, we want things for our children, for our great-grandchildren and so on. But the structures at the top, which is corrupt, cannot let this whole thing happen.
Well, history actually...
This is where, however much they'll tell you we don't have money, and then you have to go to America to get money. But they're having a lot of money, gold and diamond, and these are things that the president of
Burkina
Faso is trying
Ibrahim
to do.
Traore.
Ibrahim Traore, to try to do something on the ground. Let's start with what we have. If we have a cup of tea, if we have milk, if we have nothing, let's start with what we have. That is what Thomas Sankara was saying. We start building something.
Then
education comes in. Then we work on the mindset as well.
That has to be the general principle.
It's not working.
That has to be the general principle. But we must not forget that what we see taking place in Burkina Faso presently did not start with Ibrahim Traore.
No, it started with Thomas Sankara.
And it didn't even start with Thomas Sankara. But Thomas Sankara was a product of revolutionary thinking that had been cultivated in Burkina Faso.
Okay.
And which Thomas Sankara was a product of. What we saw manifesting in Thomas Sankara was a force, a revolutionary force that was unfolding on the ground in Burkina Faso. So much so that when Thomas Sankara, as Prime Minister in 1983, and many people don't know that he was made Prime Minister in 1983 from the government, and the name of the head of state at the time slips me at the moment, but he was made Prime Minister. But he used his office to really challenge the pro-imperialist, neo-colonial nature of the government for which he was Prime Minister. And his message was to the masses of the people, because he knew that there was a revolutionary consciousness unfolding on the ground. He was eventually deposed by the president and put in prison. And the people rose up. The people rose up. And that's what opened the way for Thomas Sankara to then emerge as the president of Burkina Faso. If we look at the legacy of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, once again, it was his appeal to the masses of the people that gave him the power to do, to manifest as he did. He was also incarcerated, and the people came out in their numbers that forced the colonial government, so-called colonial government of the United Kingdom, to release. In fact, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah had won an election while he was in prison. Yeah? The same applies to Patrice Lumumba. He was also at one point in prison, and that also ignited a mass uprising in the Congo. So the power is always with the people. Fundamentally, it is with the people.
Yeah.
And then the leaders who are in connection, who are in contact with the people. The power of the people is vested in that leader or in that leadership. That's where any authentic leadership gets its power.
Okay.
Gets its power from that is vested in them from the masses of the people.
Now you wrote you wrote a book called An African Center Approach to Excellence.
Mm-hmm. It's a booklet.
Yeah, it's a booklet. What was the message behind it?
It's focused on education.
All right.
Yeah. Education, an African-centered approach to excellence. Yeah. And the thrust of that booklet is to inspire us to realize that what we need is to establish African-centered schools for our children.
Now, the youth is another area that you've worked on much. And it's one area that, of course, we need to put a lot of effort in, especially in the diaspora, and with institutions and addressing issues which are very common among our youth, and the knowledge that very few of them even know areas in Africa where they could be, because the teachings that are in most of the schools here are centered towards the teachings of United Kingdom.
Absolutely.
Centered towards
Absolutely.
Africa.
Absolutely.
So, but how is this going to be addressed here in the
All
diaspora?
education is culturally based.
Yeah.
All education is culturally based.
Okay.
And has intrinsic within it some religious system. Essentially, the school system of Britain is grounded, is steeped in British culture.
Yeah.
It projects British culture.
Of course.
And integral to that is Christianity. Yeah?
Yeah.
This is a Christian country.
Yeah, I know.
Even its political constitution is grounded in Christianity. Parliament is open. The Parliament has a chaplain, and Parliament is open with some kind of religious ceremony.
I know.
Yeah,
we've seen that. Yeah,
it's a Christian country.
Yeah.
The
thing is,
the African equivalent.
What keeps me up most of the time when we meet and talk is that the person who grew up in a system, who was born in a system, and grew up here and educated in the system, and was not raised on the African continent, has such passion and desire about the continent. You went through the system, you went through the education system, you went through everything, and suddenly, but you are looking at the system and you're saying, this is what Africa needs. Someone else, maybe born in Africa, the Nkrumahs, and who would look at the Africa system in a different way. But you're born here, you're raised here, you went through. Where is the passion and the sudden interest in the continent? Where does it come from? Is it from a mother, the father, the people you've been through, or where does it come from?
I would say the short answer to that is that it comes from within.
Oh, from within.
It comes from that natural will. It comes from that natural will, and there's something in my life experience, something in the information that I've received. That's why we talk about the natural and informed will. When the information that we are given connects with the natural will, when the information that we are given reinforces the natural will.
It's like you have the spiritual kind of thing that
it has to start with the spiritual. You see, when we talk about education, educationists talk about the three domains of learning, the three main domains of learning. They talk about the cognitive, the psychomotor, and the affective. The cognitive is to do with the intellectual. The rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Kudzai mudzimu mukuru, give praises unto our ancestors. Tendai mwari.
Which language is that?
Shona language of Zimbabwe.
Okay. I have to start learning some of these words because I know them in my own language, but it's a different one. I have to say thank you very much for viewing us, and I hope we'll be together for another edition of Africa Speaks next week. Thank you, and may God bless you all. And thank you once again.